Finally today, as we approach the 50th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination, we're going to talk about what could be the most important 26 seconds of film in our nation's archives. Our memory of the horrific events of November 22, 1963 would not be the same without the Zapruder film. Abraham Zapruder was a local businessman who was at Dealey Plaza that day to record the visit of President John Kennedy. It was through his camera that America saw the clearest moving pictures of the assassination of a president. The film was vital evidence to the Warren Commission's investigation and is now kept in a climate control vault at the National Archives. The camera used by Zapruder is currently on display at the museum in Washington. America got its first look at the Zapruder film, not on television, but in print. Just after the assassination, Life magazine printed 31 frames from the film, possibly one of the biggest exclusives in history. And joining us now, Dick Stolley, then the editor of Life magazine, and Abraham Zapruder's granddaughter, Alexandra. They are contributors to a new commemorative Life magazine book, The Day Kennedy Died. Thank you both for coming. Alexandra, your grandfather, Abe Zapruder, he manufactured women's clothing in Dallas.
That's right.
He loved President Kennedy, and he went down to Dealey Plaza that day to see him. Tell us how that came about.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but he actually left his camera at home that morning. Because his offices were right next door to Dealey Plaza, and so he went, but it was an overcast day, and so he hadn't planned originally to film the president. And then he was persuaded by his longtime assistant, Lillian Rogers, to go home and get the camera, which he did, luckily for history. And he then went down to the plaza, and as I understand it, he took sort of tried out a number of spots and took some test shots and got ready, and then got up on that parapet with Marilyn Sitzman behind him, who was his receptionist, and got ready to film the president. Did
he realize what he had when he?
I think he did, yeah. I mean, I'm told that right afterwards, he was screaming and distraught and hysterical, and that he definitely saw the president murdered through the lens of the camera.
And what did he do? Did he go develop the film immediately, or what?
So what happened that day is so kind of amazing and involved, but he was apparently sort of wandering on the plaza a little bit, still very much in shock, right? And he was approached by a reporter from the Dallas Morning News, Harry McCormick, who saw the camera and who said, what do you have there? And he said, I only want to talk to the federal authorities. And so it was Harry McCormick who went and found Forrest Sorrells, the head of the Secret Service in Dallas, and brought him to Jennifer Jr.'s, my grandfather's manufacturing company. And from there, they went through what was a fairly long and involved process of getting the pictures developed. It wasn't so easy to develop 8mm, in those days.
Mm-hmm. And Dick Stolley, you were out in Los Angeles with Life magazine. You heard about this. Your bosses told you to get to Dallas. How did you find out about this film?
We saw it on the AP ticker, which is the way we got news before the internet. Got the news, called New York. They said, how fast can you get to Dallas? Within an hour, 4 of us were on a plane. Back then, no TSA. You could run for a plane almost as it was going, taxiing out and get on, which is what we did. We landed in Dallas not long after Air Force One went back to Washington with the president's body.
And when did you learn of this film?
About 2 hours later, I was in a hotel. Our stringer, a part-time correspondent, called me, say she had heard from a fellow reporter who'd heard from a cop, from blah, 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 that a businessman had been in Dealey Plaza with a movie camera. And I said, holy cow. What's his name? She said, I don't know how to spell it, but I can pronounce it, Zapruder. I looked in the phone book, never been in Dallas before. There it was, Zapruder, Abraham. I called that number, and finally at 11 o'clock that evening, I got a very weary and distressed Abraham Zapruder.
And you made an appointment to come see him the next morning. He wouldn't see you that night. And what happened after that?
Well, he said, come to my office at 9. I got there at 8, which is lesson for journalism students.
And journalism being early is being on time.
Exactly. And I got there first, and I saw the film with 2 Secret Service agents. We all knew the president had been assassinated. We had no idea what it looked like. And suddenly, there's that film, and when that headshot comes, it was probably the most dramatic moment of my career.
And you paid him for this. What did you pay for this?
For print rights that day, we paid $50,000. I went back 2 days later after New York had seen this incredible piece of film, bought all rights for $150,000.
But I'm told later that his relatives told you the reason you got it, that others were willing to pay as much, but you had been polite when you talked to him.
I talked to his partner and wanted to get some more details, and we're speaking, and suddenly he said, "Do you know why you got that film?" I said, "What do you mean?" Money. We promised not to exploit it, which was very important to Mr. Zapruder. But he said, "Do you know why you got it, not those other people out in the hall?" I said, "I have no idea." He said, "Because you were a gentleman."
Isn't that something? Now, Alexandra, your grandfather thought about this. This had an impact on his life from then on.
Definitely. I think it's just, he really did love the president. All of our family were real Kennedy people. And, my aunt had been down in Love Field that morning to greet the president, and my dad had just taken a job in the Justice Department under the Kennedy administration. And so, it was very personal to him, I think. And he was devastated, as the rest of the nation was, but also I think it was always very painful for him to be personally attached and associated with this, this very traumatic moment.
He was so afraid that someone might exploit it, and that's why he was agreed to give it to life.
Absolutely,
Well,
right.
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.